What's up, everybody? It's Chris Denman. You know that. Hey, guys, it's Chris, and ready for some We Are Live action coming up real quick. I just got to tell you about some people that make the show and all of our fun events possible. Come out. We got $1,000 karaoke challenge this 3rd, 5th, 10th, and 12th of March. Very excited about that. Jack Daniel's Tennessee Apple is helping us put that on. It's going to be held at 1860s Saloon in the game room. So come out. You can win $1,000. It's free to enter. You can sign up online through the Facebook event. Come out, hang out. It'll be a blast. Other things happening. March 28th, Jack Daniel's Tennessee Whiskey making target practice workouts. A very fun event. If you've never been, it's our signature comedy show. I'll be hosting that. We've got 8 comics plus 1 comic opening up, our friend Jovan Bibbs. You're going to see some great matchups where people roast pop culture topics. Oh, man, St. Louis, bunch of different stuff. And in the finals, the comics have to roast each other. So always a good time. You can get tickets through Metro Tix. Just search out Target Practice. Looking forward to that March 28th. Weekly comedy at Sophie's. That's right here in Grand Center. 3224 Locust on the 2nd floor. Weekly comedy series. Free to get in. Come out. Have some fun. Every Thursday, kicks off around 6 o'clock. Specials start at 4. Schlafly and Jack Daniel's specials all night long. Other things happening. Oh, our friends at St. Louis Counseling Services. Mental Health Matters is their podcast. But guess what? They're a full-service counseling agency as well. Check out stlouiscounseling.org online for more information. Also, our friends at gatewaypowdercoat.com. Check out Gateway Powder Coating for the #1 resource for powder coating in the Midwest. Also, a couple big shout-outs to all of you guys for checking out last week's episode with Jamie Fritz. We're going to have a full schedule. Lots of great guests here in the coming weeks, months, forever, right? So be sure to support all those who support us, and big thanks to Tech Electronics for the studio love and plenty to get to, but enjoy the show.
We are live, live, live. We are live, live, live. We are live, live, live. We are live.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Chris Denman. It's We Are live from Midcoast Studio in Grand Center in St. Louis, Missouri. Thank you for checking out the show. Very special guest today. You've probably heard his smart-ass mouth a few times on the radio show. My friend Thatcher Kamin, owner of Taste Media Group in Chicago. Maybe I shouldn't start off like that if we're going to be professional. Maybe I should give you like more of a, hey, this is a hardworking entrepreneur and he's a friend to all. Is that better?
No, you can start with Cubs fan. I mean, that's unapologetic Cubs fan, I think. That's definitely fair enough, Chris. But yeah, while I'm obviously gained some notoriety through your platform over the years, discussing my thoughts on the Cubs, I am actually a functioning member of society in some respects. So, like you said, owning and operating Taste Media Group for over 10 years now, a video production company here in Chicago, focusing on full-service video production, motion graphics, and live streaming for clients. And so I appreciate your time here. I'm home. I'm out of the office. No distractions, Chris. So I'm really looking forward to diving into this conversation with you.
Wow, that's a nice pull there, man. What's scarier, like knowing that you've been in a super crazy, ever-changing like media space for 10 years? Like this is what you go to school at Mizzou and you have a bunch of dreams, I'm sure. Is this exactly what you wanted to do, or is this still pretty scary and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing? Do you ever feel like that?
I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. So like that's kind of where I'm at. I think that obviously coming out of school, my father was in advertising and was a photography rep for a long time. And so he ran his own business. And so the idea of running my own business, I never wanted to do it because I just didn't want to deal with the stuff that they had to deal with at the time. And so just for quick reference, back in the day, if you were a photographer and you wanted to have your work seen, you needed an actual agent basically to walk into the large agencies in Chicago and present your work. And they would put the work on a wall. It was called a wall show. And the creative directors would walk by the wall. And that was like the pinnacle for a photographer. That was like you're on your way for success, which just kind of shows you how much things have changed, to your point, Chris. But I think that all you can do is prepare these days. I mean, you just got to be prepared, and you have to follow what's going on and where the market's at, because a lot of times where the actual market is at is not really where the technology is at. And so understanding where the technology can go, but understanding where your clients are at, I think, is a really good perspective to keep in mind. That, you know, with where things are going to be going. I mean, for myself, I'm 37 right now, and so I had my company and just always kind of been thought of, I think, as more of a digital, you know, almost back in the day they call it new media producer. But now that, you know, I've been doing this for a while, I kind of see myself kind of that middle where there's definitely younger talent out there that's coming out there just as hungry as I was when I started, and there's still older, you know, legacy production companies that are out there that, you know, still have the relationships. And so ultimately, when you're thinking about being in media, as much as it is in our business, it is the piece of content that we're delivering to clients. It's the whole 360 experience. So it's all the way from the initial email or call to us, to the interactions, to the project management, to the client management, to delivering the product, making sure the editing process goes as smooth as possible, to when you actually send the invoice and then have to email the client politely and ask them to pay the invoice after 60 days. So, you know, it is the whole process that is your actual product these days. So it's not just the content that you are delivering.
I honestly, I see a lot, and this is going from, and when I say creatives, I'll say dudes that shoot videos on their iPhone up to, and I'm not slighting people when I say that, but like say it's a younger person who's like a comic trying to put the stuff up on iPhones, or even up to people who are on TV and movies and things like that. It always amazes me how little they know and how little now or let me put it this way. They don't realize how much they have to be involved at every single level. I mean, they can bring in somebody like you to take care of some amazing videos, right? But then who's going to chop those up? Who's going to put their comedic timing on it? And I'm just I do a lot of stuff with comics, so I'm putting it to that thing. You could say it for business or anything else, but you're so right when you say like you have to do all those things. But I think that also falls on clients too, even knowing what they want to a degree, or at least knowing how to tell you what they want. That amazes me sometimes, because that's not just a low-level thing. There's people that are very busy, and you have experience. We'll have to talk about this, working with pretty notable people, and what the work that goes into even just maintaining an active YouTube channel is insane.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about distribution, and that's kind of what you're mentioning here. So, you know, I've always stayed away from distribution. You know, I have relationships with people. And let me back up a little bit. About 60% of our business comes through agencies. So to your point, a lot of that legwork and that heavy lifting, our agency partners do a great job with their clients. So by the time it gets to us, it's somewhat vetted, and we're more of an execution partner. Now, with our direct clients, obviously, we're taking the project from A to Z, so that's a different cadence to that type of conversation. But when it comes to the actual distribution, I've kind of stayed away from that. My partner, Jonathan Barnes, with Population Science out of Kansas City, they can handle the actual distribution, the OTT, the digital video, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, to your point, the days of organic reach, the days that you're just going to kind of hit that algorithm right and be okay, are kind of over. I mean, but people can still do it, but it takes a lot more work now. It takes a lot more content to come out to produce. And so you really have to kind of not pick your lane. I think, again, you should understand the process and be able to speak to the process to clients, but then know exactly what your value is in that process. And then that's where you're able to really service the market.
So as a videographer, say you have somebody that's coming into it, right? What would be the first piece of knowledge that you would drop on somebody? Is it your equipment? Is it knowing what direction you're even going? Is it even just get right financially first? Like, what are you telling somebody that's trying to do something similar to what you have now, if they're at point A and you're at, W?
So I think you have to ask, the first question is, what is your desired deliverable? What do you want out of this exercise, out of this production? And then to that point, how can we kind of reverse engineer that and see, like, can we get that deliverable in 1 day worth of budget? Can we get multiple deliverables? What are your strongest channels? Are you using this for sales? Are you using this for social media? Are you using this for awareness? Are you using this for a one-time, maybe a convention or a sales or a presentation? When you look at larger companies, their internal communications departments are very expansive these days. They're very just in producing almost as much content for their employees sometimes as they are for public facing consumption. So it's really about understanding their outcome before you even start with anything else. And, the idea of equipment, I think this day, like, I'm not romantic about what we do. I mean, I know that, we have nice equipment. Do we have the nicest, $60,000, $75,000 cameras? No, we don't. But I know that our process is solid and that our product is solid. And so, I'm not really going to be focusing on that too much. I really just want to understand what the client wants out of their production and the value for their money.
That's so interesting to me too. Like that, I'm sure a lot of people run into trouble that are camera people by trade, right? They're not going to necessarily know. They're going to have that. They're going to be like, I just want to shoot. But then they want to do their own thing. Well, if you don't want to be told what to do, you have to know how to kind of navigate all those other paths too. That's overwhelming, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I've always kind of been if you want to equate it to corporate role, like I'm basically a project manager. I have the technical skills to use a camera. I sometimes shoot a B camera when we're on location. People might say, "Oh, you're a cameraman," which is totally fine. But I'm not even really a cameraman 99% of the time. So and I haven't edited for probably 10 years. So we have the people, the processes in place, and if you're really running a business these days, especially in the technical creative field, and a more majority of your time is spent with clients on the phone, crafting emails, just in communications. You really should not be in the weeds on the technical side. I think it's one of the big mistakes that a lot of creatives that try to go into this make, is that they still want to be like hands-on technical, and you're going to be able to find people that are better than you at that specific niche within your workflow, right, and hire them and utilize their skills, because your time's really not worth it to get into the weeds on that.
And that's a tough thing to separate yourself from too. I'm sure you see that all the time. As far as, so I know you work on a ton of corporate projects, different things like that. As far as getting started, did this start off with, hey, I think I could shoot, a technical training video for a large company, or did this start off more on the, I almost want to say creative side, where were you interested in TV shows, film? Where did you what sparked this? Like, what creative endeavor? Or was it just, hey, I'm into this and I think I can get enough budget to do a good job?
Well, yeah. So I think a lot of things changed during the recession, and there was a lot of splintering off. And it was right around the time the technology was kind of becoming more commoditized. And so, what I really, graduating from Mizzou, I liked news. I came to Chicago. I worked as a production assistant for 6 months. I worked for a year and a half for WCIU, which is just became a CW affiliate in Chicago, but it's one of the few remaining, if not one of three, I think, independent television stations. So I kind of created their digital video online for their website. Again, and we didn't have news, so we were producing more like magazine type content. Yeah. For their website. From there, I had a startup in 2008-ish that we raised some capital for. So I left WCIU, did the startup. It was about a 3-year term sheet we had, and the recession hit. And one day, the money, that we were meeting all of our goals with what we were trying to create. It was a startup revolving around cooking content at the time, and when that ended, I just really didn't have any opportunities, because there was no, there weren't jobs right then and there. And so, but I did have relationships, and I was lucky that at a younger age, coming to Chicago, and meeting people and just knowing people, that's really how, people started reaching out, and we were able to kind of, get things going off the bat, and very organically and very scalable. way, so that you were never really bringing on investors for Taste Media Group. We were never having to take out massive loans for equipment. I mean, you just kind of bootstrapped it and tried to get things going during that time, which was a lot different. And I mentioned the recession because at the time in Chicago, I'm going to say, there's maybe 5 or 6 large production companies, and those all basically, I think there's one left now. And so there was a real splintering of people leaving, producers. They had specific clients. The clients would usually go with the producer, just things of those nature when it comes to actual Chicago production, which, is a corporate heavy town, just given our location to O'Hare, all the businesses that are here. I mean, there's a lot of work here, just in regards to video and being able to use those core skills that you learned at Mizzou, storytelling, correct, just ways to build stories via video, which is the same technique you use in news reporting that you do in creating, messaging pieces for corporations and companies.
It is so crazy too. I'm sure it doesn't feel like 10 years has passed, but as far as other projects that you're working on, you can see on the Taste Media Group Instagram, and on your LinkedIn, you have Jennifer Hudson popping up here and there. That to me has always been interesting. For those that don't know, can you shed a little bit of a light on the relationship? And then obviously that's gone well. You guys have worked together for a long time. And she's a unique case too, because she's somebody that comes out of an award show, or a reality show, right? The
American Idol, yeah.
American Idol.
And that was actually, American Idol was getting 25 to 30 million viewers. Right. And so obviously working with Jennifer for this long, I mean, I think she's the best voice talent of our generation, just pure talent. If you look at the situations that she's put in where she's asked to deliver a song in a moment, and she needs to be present in that moment and understand that it's not only about her delivering that song, but it's about the moment. Just recently, we were at the All-Star game for Kobe Bryant. You look at these types of situations that she's put in, and she delivers every time. And it's just amazing to just be a fly on the wall and see this talent just be given a platform in how she's able to perform. And then also with her acting, she's really, and also Broadway, she did Color Purple as well as the main star on that show a couple of years ago. So she just lives for the moment, and she's not fazed by anything. And, to be able to experience that, a couple times a year that we're able to get access, is really a great experience, and something that, a lot of people don't get to experience. So I don't take it for granted at all.
What can you describe being on the court during that? I mean, during that presentation, or I guess, remembrance of Kobe and his daughter? I mean,
yeah, it's kind of one of those things though, Chris, when you're in the moment, and I'm like, I'm kind of working, I'm kind of like, okay, is my shot good? You don't really take in the whole moment until afterwards. We were in the locker room, and it had already been posted on Twitter. I mean, I think it was trending within minutes of the performance, where you're like, oh wow, that was really incredible, and when you start to see the impact it had, and people commenting, and just the level of people that are back, I'm gonna say backstage, but at an all-star game, who are coming up to her and telling her what an amazing performance it was. It's really just cool to see. Obviously horrible, it's like one of those things where you don't want to be there almost, and it was the same situation when we were at the Super Bowl in 2014, and she sang, before the national anthem, they sing America the Beautiful, and she had come out there with the Sandy Hook students at the time, and she sang America the Beautiful with the Sandy Hook students. And it's like the moments are huge moments, but it's like we're there for these reasons that we wish we didn't have to even be there in a way. Right. And so it's just being able to take all of that into account when it comes to, again, what she's asked to perform and what she's asked to deliver on the biggest stages that there are.
That has to be surreal as you're describing it. She's going to kill it in this in the movie coming up, the Aretha Franklin movie. Are you going to be part of any of the behind the scenes stuff for that?
So when it comes to when she's doing, I'm going to call it, obviously a motion picture, a network television show. we don't really have access like that per se, because those are really, I mean, I'm working for her. It'd be technically her content. And she's working herself there. I mean, and she's part of a team, and to have me around just following her, that's not really her style. And so we try to do it more around events, where, like a musical performance, or just events where we know we can get access without being a disruption to the overall production.
What's the most?
In terms of Aretha, I haven't been down there. I know they just wrapped. They shot in Atlanta, New York, and I want to say Detroit. Don't quote me on that, but it's wrapped, and so I think it's going to be coming out this fall, which is going to be, it's again. She's asked to play Aretha Franklin. I mean, and she was chosen by Aretha Franklin before her death. She actually said, like, I want Jennifer Hudson to play me. And so again, you're placed in these situations where you're just asked to deliver, and and now it's a major motion picture where it's a lot is going to be put into that. So it will be fun to see the final product and see how it all comes out.
That's absurd. Whenever you're doing these moment type events for her and you're documenting it, I mean, is there a one sentence takeaway of what you want to accomplish from your point of view in those events?
Yeah, I want to give Jennifer a voice for her perspective, because that's the beautiful thing that we're able to do these days is, if we put something on her social media platforms, it's from her perspective, and a lot of people see it from a perspective on television, and to also document process, because just like any other piece you're doing, I mean, you can document a process, and there's a process for a concert, and people don't understand that. Like, even last year we were in Philadelphia for a 4th of July concert, and we were in somewhere, if you've ever been to Philadelphia, there's about an hour and a half east there. I'm going to say it's like basically Amish country. Mm-hmm. And there's a huge studio out there that a lot of celebrities use to perform. But she was out there 3 days before the performance, just practicing with the band, getting everything down. And then, you go to the performance itself, it starts raining, it's not raining, it's like all the stuff that goes on behind, because she's such a powerful voice. Right. There's a certain level of mixing on location that needs to be done, because you're mixing, in that situation, we were mixing her voice with her band, with the Philadelphia orchestra. And so that all has to come together, and that's a lot. And so just being able to document those processes, I think is what I would love for people to get away from watching some of the stuff that we've done over the years, to see what all goes on behind the scenes, because a lot of people just will never get to experience that. And because of technology these days, we can do it.
I love that. And I love that podcasts are such a huge thing now. And I love that Netflix has made documentaries like cool. And I love that you do have all that stuff, because I think people as a whole kind of crave that, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, there's a formula to a CBS laugh track comedy series. But at the same time, like, I think there's a level of, and it's proven out by who watches Netflix, who listens to podcasts, et cetera, that kind of content is super important. And it's cool to be a part of, really. It's like, I'm sure you pinch yourself sometimes in those situations where you're like, I'm getting to help craft a creative piece of work for what, like you said, one of, if not the most talented voice of our generation. Like that. Do you ever do that? Do you ever step out and say, this is insane, I can't believe this is happening right now?
I think you kind of are in the moment, and when you're in the moment, you're kind of working again. Like, I'm thinking through. I'm thinking through what's the end product and what shots do I need to get to tell this story. Because if I don't, I know Jennifer's going to ask me, did we get this? Did we get that? So I'm thinking kind of, downstream what we need. And when you're in that, but it's the same thing you would do on any production, any shoot you would do. And so afterwards, I think you step back, you take a moment, you're like, I'm severely fortunate to be just in this arena right now with her and what's going on, and just the talented people around her. And the reason she's been so successful is because she has a solid team around her. And she has, she's been through a lot. She's been through a lot in her life, and a lot of tragedy. And I think that that's something that, she brings with her, and just the presence she has, and she knows when we were with those Sandy Hook students, the mother will come up and doesn't even say anything to her and starts crying. And it's just like, people know what she's been through, and that makes her so much more in the moment of these situations that I don't think, any other talent could really be at that present.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Whether it's a sports event that you've been a part of or that you've snuck your way onto, or if it's an entertainment thing with her or an entertainment thing you've been a part of with other projects, have you been around one individual in these situations? And maybe it's not even somebody that super famous, maybe it's just somebody you know. Have you been around somebody that did make you stop and check out of the work mode, even for a second? Like, you've been around a lot of really interesting situations. So I wonder if there has been that moment you're like, oh my gosh, that's so-and-so, and they're doing whatever I'm seeing right now.
Yeah, I mean, well, you don't really know if they're ever going to see what you're doing because you're usually just on location with them.
Right.
But, all the way from, I just find people interesting in general. Like, I really think everybody has a story, and whether it's an entrepreneur and, you see somebody who's kind of coming up, like this is their dream, all the way to the CEO of like a publicly traded company. You try to just take something away from that moment with those people because, I've probably interviewed literally thousands and thousands of people like over the last 10 to 15 years. And you realize that when you give somebody a camera and let them talk, it gives them a feeling of that they're being heard no matter what. And that's what's cool these days, is it doesn't have to just be on the news. Platform is platform, and people can consume what people are talking about these days. And that's what I think is really cool about what we get to do, is we give people a voice no matter what. And being able to go back to being a journalism major, you're able to, kind of navigate conversations probably in a way that people that might come from more of a productions background don't have that background per se.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes perfect sense. What about upcoming projects? Anything insane that you're looking forward to? I mean, obviously just keeping the business up and running and taking care of your family and everything's always important, but anything on the horizon that you're just absolutely floored about? I mean, you just went to the All-Star game and filmed your client singing about the late Kobe Bryant. That's pretty huge. So, if that has just happened, yeah, correct me.
Yeah. I mean, we just have so much stuff. It's honestly, Chris, it's kind of a blur. I got to look at the calendar right now. We just got back from a shoot in Western Illinois late Wednesday night. So let me answer that on Monday.
Perfectly fine. One more thing before we wrap up, man. Have you had anything crazy? So I was part of this. I don't talk about it a ton because I thought it was going to be way different than it was. And it was a super cool experience. But we were in a helicopter a bunch, and we were in Honduras, and that we were filming like with the door open, flying over these jungles and stuff, and it was crazy. And then we were also in Honduras where they're like, hey, do you want the armored car option? Those cameras and that stuff you guys are bringing around with you for this project you're not really sure of that you're doing, those are pretty valuable here. You could get jacked. And no one was being hyper, nobody was crazy about what they were saying. But have you been in a situation where somebody's either, maybe it's people that are around and you're in just kind of the wild and it's the public acting up, or maybe it's just a super unruly client? Have you been in a situation where you're kind of, I don't even know if nervous is the right word, where you're just like, what is happening right now? I'm trying to film something and this is going out of control.
Yeah, two main things stick out. Actually, one's with our friend Julie when I went to Rio.
Julie,
for a project at the time when she was working at Waze, and we were doing a piece with the public. I don't know what you would equate it to, but kind of like in Rio de Janeiro, it'd be like the public, the transportation commission, if you would.
Yeah.
And we went up in a helicopter and drove around Rio to get shots with the door open, and that was pretty memorable, definitely for sure. And then also. There was this shoot we did one time in this small town in Illinois, and there was this guy, and I don't know if you've ever seen these, but they're kind of like homemade planes almost. This guy was like, come on up. Yeah, like they don't have. It's not like it's like basically a bicycle with a propeller that can go up about 1,000 feet in the air. There's no doors or anything like that. And my client, who is also my really good friend, I was like, and I had 3 other guys with me, and his client asked, I was like, okay, let's just do this. And because the pilot was this guy who had like flown in Vietnam and everything. And, as we're going there, you like take off on this grassy, like basically like a grassy field. And you get up there pretty quick and you hit a little bit of wind and your stomach just drops. Like it's nothing compared to like it's like turbulence in a commercial airplane is like amateur hour compared to this thing.
You were in
but, I was filming outside. I
thought you were just him flying around in it. Oh
no, I went in it with him because we need to get some aerials of this town. This is before drones, like this was like, probably 8 years ago. Yeah. And I just kind of put my faith that this guy had flown in Vietnam and he knew what he was doing. And, obviously it was okay, but that was pretty memorable. And then also going into foreign countries is like really not an easy task with equipment. I've always made sure that we have a card, always make sure you have a carnet, always make sure you have everything documented. One time we went to Canada without a carnet into Toronto, and that was not a good situation. But we got through, thankfully. But just, again, to running a production company, just always being prepared and planning for, situations because, there's just so much stuff that can come up when you're on location. But anything, again, to your point, plane, air, helicopter, fake, homemade plane related is definitely something that's going to stick out.
I always wonder, and like just when, I'm very limited compared to you, obviously, but just out of curiosity, and I watch a lot of like the nature shows and stuff like that. I don't know what the hell those guys what they're thinking. Like lions don't. This isn't war where there's like. In war, at least, like there's like a somewhat of an agreement. Like, okay, we're not going to kill the journalists, right? But like if you're out in the wild, like a lion doesn't. They don't care if you have a camera or not. Like you think of, I think about that every time, and I may be a little off subject, but
that's a whole nother mindset.
Isn't it?
That's a whole other mindset too. I mean, those are people that, there's a certain level of dedication to the craft that people like that, that's almost like a calling. I watched a thing the other night with a videographer. They were doing things on a huge documentary on cenotes in Mexico. Mm-hmm. And, it's one thing to be traveling in a cenote and these guys are kind of like exploring, and cenotes are basically like underground rivers, in Mexico, and it's like this whole like dynamic network that you can, it's really cool. My wife and I just recently went to a couple while we were in Tulum, and it's really amazing. And then this woman was a videographer underwater, so like not only is she are these guys going to unknown underwater rivers and caverns, but now she's doing it with a huge camera and having to document this, and you have to kind of think, to your point, like, who's the person that's actually filming this? Because somebody has to technically be proficient in this type of production to make sure that, because they're not going to get another shot at this. No. And again, it's just about being prepared, understanding process, and knowing what's your troubleshooting going to look like. Can you troubleshoot in a situation versus like, I think everything's going to go 100% as planned, because if you think that, you're wrong from off the jump. So that's what I would my takeaway would be from that.
On that note, I just talked to a guy named Ben Westhoff, and he just put out a book called Fentanyl Inc. And he's been everywhere. It's a big time book. He's put out several other books as well, but he's a journalist, and he went undercover. I say embedded. He went undercover in China to a fentanyl factory. It told them he was a drug dealer, and just went in and got the whole scoop on everything. And I'm talking to the guy, and I'm just like, what? He lost a friend to that a long time ago, so he has some personal motivation, but it's being motivated from the point of he's a journalist and wants to tell the story. Like I don't know why I felt the need to share that with you, but I feel like it relates in some way.
No, I mean, it's a dedication to, that's the main thing, is just understanding, the art of journalism will never die. I mean, you're always going to have passionate people out there who want to tell particular stories. And, they find the avenue to do so. And when you're that dedicated to it, you're gonna feel it's almost like a calling to make sure that this is told, and whatever platform it is told on these days is what it is, but at least it's out there in the ether. And I think that, the more people continue that and find ways to be funded, and that's a whole other discussion, but, I think that, you're never going to see that ending, just as you said with podcasting. I mean, it's never, you're never going to run out of stories to tell. You're never going to run out of recollections. You're never going to run out of thought leadership content that can be developed. And so that's why I think while some people are look at the future as somewhat, mixed and muddied, I think it's just, continue to put out the best content will win. And I don't know the longevity of, you've seen it already in our, you saw Vines, you saw, TikTok now, which I have some certain opinions on, just in terms of actual data collection and auditing of their numbers. But again,
far be it from that company or from where, I don't know. I had a guy, and this has nothing to do with the guy, but it's more on me being like, I don't know what to do with this. I had a guy who wants to do some work with us, and he's super talented, young guy, and has a really positive message. But either way, he has a TikTok video that has like 1 million hits. He's like, and I was like, I don't know what to tell you. Like I was like, I'm starting to figure out YouTube. I was like, it was interesting, and I'm curious, since you brought it up, if it is going to be a viable. It's already a thing. Obviously, you have celebrities.
Oh, 100%. But you just look at like the amount of, like, I always think if it's too good to be true, it usually is. So you can ride a quick wave that can, but like the longevity, I think, is always going to be in storytelling. It just is. And the more work you put into it, like you said, your friend that, or the person you're talking to went all the way to China, like the output will equal the input. So if your input is a 12-second lip sync video, the output might be really, really quick and really big, but what's the longevity and sustainability in that? And not to sound like an old man, but I don't know. History will show. But if you look at the people on YouTube that have really, it's been a lot of work. It's a lot of input. It's a lot, whether you're doing cooking content, whether you're doing what you guys are doing down there, all the work that you guys put into it. And, it's a lot easier when people are showing up, not easier, but, if you're a radio host in 19 hours and you're out, and you have a team of producers around you. Now we know where, everything is a lot more niche. Everything is a lot more, the pie is divided up a lot. And so, for people that put the work in, there will be an output. And I'm just not sure if how much that's going to resonate with people that are kind of, of the quick hit social media dopamine generation.
We'll see. Who knows? As we see, is anybody? When's the last time somebody earnestly brought up Snapchat? Like, I don't know. I think that's
Snapchat. Yeah, I mean, but I mean that's kind of to my point. You're going to see these platforms that focus on short form, more viral type stuff. I don't know if they win in the long run. I think
still pretty new. Yeah, like in the grand scheme of things. Right?
So in the grand, also too, if you look at YouTube, just to not to harp too much on it, but if you look back, YouTube won. Like there were like 7 or 8 video sharing platforms when we first started, and YouTube won. And I can't really, that'd be a whole nother discussion on why YouTube won. But you find that like the platforms that allow for the most creativity to be displayed, sometimes, if I can put it that way, or allow the most variance, because even for like, as a content creator, we're also limited by the platforms who say your video has to be 15 seconds. It has to be what's Twitter, 220. Instagram was 60 seconds. Now they're longer. LinkedIn is 10 minutes for natively uploaded videos. And YouTube was always like, you can upload whatever you want. And so I think that if you look at that type of, and why podcasting is winning is because there's really, there's not a podcast platform that says you can only have a 5-minute podcast,
Right.
So I think that if you look at it from a strategy like that, I do also think too, as we move forward, just be careful though, because if you look at like, how-to videos, think about that 10 years ago, where it's like, wow, you can do a how-to video on anything. and it'll be amazing. Where now anything I want to know is there's a how-to video for it. So that vertical of video content might have become mature. So it's always just thinking about what's the next step of content that will resonate. And again, it goes back to the stuff that's harder to produce. I mean, it just is. And that's what has the best experience for the viewers. And that's why you've seen Serial be huge. Like you said, all these all this stuff that has kind of gone mainstream or jumped the shark per se, from niche platform to everybody knows about it, have been based around a lot of work being put into it.
Great point. Wise words, Thatcher. Before you get out of here, predictions on your Chicago Cubs this season.
Well, Chris, it's really hard to predict if I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch the games because the marquee network isn't really been off to I don't know. I don't know. I think it's on Hulu. I probably need to search around a little bit.
Right.
But I think when it comes to the field, I think we're maybe third place, between first and third place this year. I think that no matter what, we'll pull it together. I think the Chris Bryant situation needs to be really sorted out. I don't think what they did this year was a good look for the organization in terms of that.
Weird or that's
well, it was the contract, the rookie year contract stipulation where he didn't get that first year kind of, and so there was some. Chris Bryant was really trying to stand up for players and take a stand, which was great for the players. But I think there might be some lingering repercussions, and they're not going to say there's bad blood, but I would be irked if I was Chris Bryant, given all that he's done in his short career so far to the organization, and combined with it's going to come down to pitching again. I think him, Rizzo, Baez, they're going to be electric no matter what. So we'll see. I think your Cardinals got a good shot, but Cubs probably first place though.
Oh, of course. I mean, why wouldn't they be with David Ross at the helm? Huge get.
Sorry, I'm trying not to blind myself here throughout this interview.
It's been fun.
Kind of shifting.
It's been fun watching the clouds pass by.
There we go. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Oh, perfect. Thatcher, how could people check out Taste Media Group's work, man? This has been a great conversation. We'll have to do it again too.
Yeah, hold on 1 second before I blind myself. This is the major payoff, right? Yeah. Okay. So tastemediagroup.com, on Instagram, /Taste Media Group, Facebook, Taste Media Group, everything. You can always call us directly, 312-523-5408. We can step in at any level of production you need. Maybe, whether it's just field production, editing, graphics, we'll just help be an execution partner on your side and get you what you need.
Love it. Thatcher, keep up the great work, man. Congratulations on all the success. Tell Jay Hud what's up.
I will, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah, you be sure to do that. See you, buddy.
Have a good one, bud.
We are live, live, live. We are live, live, live. We are live.